Hi, everyone, and welcome back to some new episodes of Sisters in Service. For those of you that know me, you know why I do this, because I want to tell those stories of active duty women and women veterans and to tell their story, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what happened to them in service and after service. But these women are also doing some amazing things in their life after service. I also like to highlight these women who are business owners, they're entrepreneurs, they're bosses in their business. So I hope you'll continue to listen and let your friends know and let me know how this lands with you, because it's really important for me that you guys understand what I do, why I do it, and why I continue to do it. So here's the first episode. This episode is being sponsored by Small Space Pilates. Are you ready to get fit and fabulous from the comfort of your own home? Look no further than Small Space Pilates. With live online Pilates and weight training classes, a video library, and a no perfection allowed policy, you can achieve your fitness goals without ever leaving your house. Visit smallspacepilates.com for your complimentary session and start your journey to feeling fabulous today. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Sisters in Service. You know me, your host, Kat Corchado, and my guest today is VR Small. VR is the founder and CEO for the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center in Texas. She's also a Navy veteran. She is also a motivational speaker, moderator, educator, and resolute advocate for long-lasting, impactful change, and we will talk about that. But please help me welcome VR Small. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad that, looking at your bio, I was like, I'm not sure she has time to be on my podcast. You're doing so many things.
Woo!
There's a lot going
on. Busy, right?
Yes, very, very busy. So let's talk a little bit, VR, about being a Navy veteran. I always ask my women veterans this question. Did you pick the Navy or did the Navy pick you?
I actually picked the Navy. So I joined, I signed up from right here in Texas, in Dallas at 17. And I tell this story all the time, so I guess it's kind of getting old. But my recruiter tricked me. Sometimes you're so smart, you're stupid. So I wanted to go to the Navy Academy. I wanted to be a JAG officer, a journalist. And my recruiter told me that I needed a school to get a school. And at 17, that sounds rational. That sounds right, you know? So I was like, all right, give me a school so I could get the school I want. He got me to sign up as a corpsman, which was a critical field at that time. And I remember getting to boot camp and I seen cadence, and so did my captain or my commander. And I was telling her about how I got to school, and she just cracked up. She thought it was the funniest thing ever. She said, no, Small, doesn't work that way. You're an enlisted. You needed a totally different avenue to be an officer. So I graduated meritoriously from boot camp. I went on to corpsman school, graduated with honors and distinction. And then I went to operating room technician school in San Diego. And I was telling my master chief there the same thing, like, hey, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be over there at the Naval Academy. And they looked at my past performance and they said, you know what, you might just be a good candidate. And they started putting my package together. But by the time I finished corpsman school, they had my package ready, but I already had my orders to my duty station. And so my new commander would need to sign my package. And I tell you, Kat, I didn't even unpack, because I knew I was on my way to Bethesda. I'm not even unpacking. I'm not staying in California. I'm out of here. And I remember meeting with my commander, and I don't remember what I was thinking because it just caught me off guard. But she had decided she was not going to sign my package, and that I was too much immature. This is a woman that didn't know me from Jack, to go off to officer school. But she thought I should go to school to be a doctor or something else in the medical field. And I was like, yeah, no, I kind of know what I want to do. It's not medical. And I want to be a line officer because we're
just sign off the paperwork so I can go.
So, it was disappointing at 17. but I really tried to make the best of my Navy career. I kept looking for other opportunities that really fit me because I really didn't have an interest in the medical field. I eventually got moved to clinical investigations. I love that because I love research. So I worked with the officers there. I wrote their manuals. I was into drawing in. I drew some of their procedures. I ended up really managing our department. And I don't know if you know the Navy, but we only make rank if the military needs you. So it doesn't matter like if you pass your test. If the Navy doesn't need more of this, you don't get it. So at that time I had already passed my test, but a lot of people did, and we didn't all get promoted. And so, but I had the skills. So I was managing conflict and really running the department. I did the computer training. And when I got ready to leave, I had wrote out all my little, job references and everything, recommendation letter, presenting them to everybody. And I'll never forget the captain, telling me I can't sign that. And I thought, why can't you? What I need to change? I'll change it. He's like, no. You weren't supposed to be doing all that. I can't sign off on that. I was like, but I did it. He's like, yeah, but I can't say that you did it and that I let you do it. And I think the letter they gave me was about 4 sentences. Even the civilian people were like, yeah, we can't really put our name on that because if it comes back, we could lose our job. And I got a recommendation letter that was about 4 sentences, was the work the paper was written on. I think I did actually throw it away. So I just had to go it on my own. But I still believe the Navy was a good experience because the Navy kind of taught me how to deal with challenges and how to deal with those challenges as an adult. Because at first I was really mad and I just wanted out. And then I realized that out without finishing my term meant a dishonorable discharge. And so I didn't want that. So I just started trying to figure out, okay, how do I make this job work? How do I make this experience work? I've got to be here, so let's make it productive. And so I still continue to grow, not in the way I wanted to grow, but I still continue to grow. And I think that was a learning lesson that really helped me when I got back into the civilian world to deal with difficult challenges.
Yeah, I think the path that we think we're going is not necessarily the path that we actually went on, but it sometimes it looks a little bit different. But you're still learning some very valuable life lessons, on how to quick pivot, on how to, deal with adversity, on how to, when someone tells you no, you're like, okay, what else is available to me? So when you got out, VR, did you have any issues with transition?
So not really. I went to high school. I studied business. And when I came out of the Navy, I was typing 75 words a minute. Remember, I had just did all the computer training. So I was highly skilled. I immediately went and started temping because that was the first job I ever had out of high school. I tipped for Kelly Services. And at 17, I was making, $8 an hour was unheard of. And so when I went to New York, I thought, first thing, let's find a temp agency. Let's get some work going. And that first month or two, I think I was making $1,000 a week. Because I was working for different law firms. I ended up working for Showtime and the movie channel when they were making their transition. Just a lot of quick stops here and there. And I remember my boss at one of the financial firms, I really liked him, nice guy, asked me to come to work for him. I remember he told me I was going to be making $18,000. I don't know why that number, I didn't do the math and be like, that's not going to equal up to what I'm normally making because I'm making $1,000 a week. This is just a little over $1,000 a month. And I remember getting my first check and was just in shock. I think it was like $400 and some odd dollars. And I was like, whoa, what happened to my money?
Where's it at? What happened to it?
He was a senior vice president. He kept trying to get me promoted, but they wasn't really having it. And that was doing all of the mergers for the brokerage firms. So Merrill Lynch ended up taking over E.F. Hutton, who I worked for. And when they were doing that transition, they didn't know who was going to stay because, of course, Merrill Lynch had their own financial planning division, and I was in financial planning. So I went ahead and jumped ship and did what? Started temping. And I ended up over at Barclays Bank in their computer services, and They needed an admin assistant, and that boss there was not a senior person either, but he really stretched. He got me the highest pay he could get me, the highest title he could get me. In fact, I remember going to HR to sign my paperwork, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we don't pay people at that level that much." And I was like, "You gonna pay me that? I'm not signing." So this is before cell phones. I'm like, "Can I use your phone?" And I'm calling my boss saying, "People messing up over here. You better talk to him because I'm about to be out." And so then he told him, he's like, "Look, yeah, she's good. Everything's been signed up." And then the girl's like, "Well, you're going to have to take some tests." And I was like, "Look, chick, I've been here 90 days. I'm not taking no tests. I'm here to sign a piece of paper and you eating up my lunch." And so we finally got it all done, but they were like, "No, this is not how we do it." So he broke all the rules to get me in there. And I had a lot of like temp opportunities like that where people wanted me to stay. But I think you need to, I always tell people, a company's not just looking at you. You should be looking at the company too. So I wanted a great place where I could work, where I had a great relationship with my boss, and I felt that there might be some opportunities for growth.
So let's talk a little bit about the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center. Let's go back to when it was just an idea. What was it you were thinking when it was just an idea? What was it you were hoping this would be for you?
So when I moved back to Texas, it was really interesting because they have so many veteran programs here. I felt like a swarm of bees had just engulfed me. Everybody was telling me all these things I could get access to. And I remember seeing an ad for this thing called Roll Call that the Texas Veteran Commission was doing and love it. And it sounded so good. And they said they travel, they move around. I was like, "Okay, when are you coming to Dallas?" And I kept calling and calling and calling. And finally they told me we were coming to Dallas, but nobody was interested. And I said, "Well, that's got to be wrong. I know a lot of women programs here. You need to try this again." And I remember them asking me if I wanted to lead it, but I was new. I'm like, "No, I don't want to lead it, but I definitely want to be involved." Well, they did the call, 15 different people on the line. Everybody was in. So we did this great weekend in Dallas. We had a formal night. We had a day of activities and training. And I did entrepreneurship. And I thought this was going to be easy peasy, cat, because there was all these programs listed in Texas that support veteran entrepreneurship. So I'm like, I'm just going to invite them, bring everybody together and call it a day. Everybody had an excuse. Somebody was transitioning. They didn't have somebody here. The program wasn't blank. None of them were legit. So I'm a
It always sounds good in concept, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, I'm in. And then when it's time to commit, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute.
Exactly.
I got stuff to do."
I'm a SCORE mentor, so I was able to get my SCORE colleagues to come in, and we did a session for the young ladies. I think we had 25, 30 ladies that showed up. But what was interesting was afterwards, people kept reaching out to me, kind of like, "What's next?" And I'm thinking, next year, we'll do this again. We do it once a year. But it made me start to wonder, do we need something? Back then, we didn't even have a women's business center in Dallas. So I started doing my research, and that's when I found out the statistics about women veterans and how they had grown, from 4 to 15%. They were outpacing African-American women, and that not only the VA, but the National Women's Business Council, the SBA was all saying, we need programs for women veteran entrepreneurs, and it needs to be specifically for them. And I said, okay, well, let's do that. Let's do the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center. So I didn't know anything about co-working, but I knew there was a trend, and I knew that we all liked working together. I was like, I think that's something we could benefit from, co-working. And I knew that the ladies had been complaining that they were running all over the place and nobody was really helping them. And in the military, we have a centralized location for information. So I did our conference center. And last but not least was our cafe lounge. And that was because not everybody knows what that next step is, what they want it to be. But you could come into the cafe lounge, meet other entrepreneurs, hang out, get some information, some mentoring, and figure out, is this the next move for me? So that was just the first part of it. The Veteran Women's Enterprise Center is over 30,000 square feet. It's 3 levels, has a residential program, and it has a retail program and a lot of other elements to it. But I thought people could understand that first part, the co-working, the conference room, the cafe. Other people are doing that. If you can grasp that, then you can grasp the bigger picture.
So this is a one-stop shop then. Is that what you're saying? Like I don't have to go to 5 or 6 different locations. Everything I need is right there.
You shouldn't have. But coordination is always difficult because people become very possessive. We would have people show up just to find our clients because a lot of programs were either government ran or they had to check a box. They had to see so many people. So I'm a nonprofit. I'm running my own program. And initially I was funding it. So I didn't have the answer to anybody but me. So we were very focused on what I said, impact. Can we really help these women opposed to, I need to check a box because I have to say I served X amount of people. So we were really committed to how can we help you? What can we do to really transcend? And that's something that I'm still thinking about today because here in the DFW area, we have several business support programs. And in many instances, we're providing very similar services. So even though we focus on a unique population, and we like to call it entrepreneur women associated with the military, because first and foremost, we serve veterans. But I do serve active duty. I just mentored a woman from South Korea. I do serve reservists and military spouses. Now, I don't go looking for them, but if they land at our door, we're not going to turn them away.
So let me ask a question. Is this for someone who just has an idea or concept for business? Is this for women who are already in business, or maybe they've been in business for a few years? Is this for all of the above?
So our mission is to empower entrepreneur women associated with military to scale for success. We are what I like to call the gap filler. There are so many programs that are doing startup. They want to help you with their business plan. They're going to help you start your business, think it through. But we see the statistics that many of these businesses last maybe 5, 7, 10 years at the most, and then they're gone. Well, I need to ask the question as somebody with a background in organizational development, why? If they made it 5, if they made it 7, if they made it 10, why are they failing? What are we not doing? And the statistics told us a great deal. 97% of those women were reporting receipts under 25K. But what was interesting is the 3% that was hiring, they reported receipts of almost 10 billion as a collective. The census report showed that if they did receipts proportionate to their size, they should have did almost 29 billion. So even the women who were doing good were not doing as good as they could have been doing. And it let me know we need more support services for our women veteran entrepreneurs. But the problem is a lot of women don't identify as veteran. They've had a difficult military experience. They know the veteran population is male dominated. And many of them have just decided, I'm done with that. And I'm moving on to the next phase of my life.
Yeah, they give up. They give up. And they think that
finding them, connecting with them is difficult. It's one of the reasons why we called it the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center, because part of the narrative I want to change is women who have served in the military not seeing themselves as veterans. If you served, you are a veteran. And you are entitled to support because of your services. Just like somebody who served 25 years and they retired, they have benefits that they're entitled to because of the time that they put in. And so these women think, oh, I didn't deploy. Oh, I didn't stay in long enough. Oh, I only did this job. None of that matters. We are all volunteer military, and we must be at the ready 24/7, 365 days of the year. Every single job we have is important. It has a role. And so those women need to know you are a veteran, and you need to get connected, and you need to take pride in your service. I mean, you don't have to shout it from the rooftop, but please don't hide it under,
Yeah. I think it's getting easier now. Before when I got out in 2000, no one said, hey, I'm a woman veteran over here. So I thought that I thought I was the issue. I was the problem, dealing with transition. So let's pivot just a minute and tell us or tell our audience, What is the mission of the Veteran Women's Enterprise Center?
So as I said, our mission statement is to empower entrepreneur women associated with the military to scale for success. Now we use 4 techniques. First, we create strategic alliances like the one we have here with the Comerica Business HQ for our space so that we can have a facility. 2, we leverage public and private opportunities, and that's predominantly contracting. How can we help these businesses get to the table to access contracts at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level, and in the private sector? Then we advocate for relevant research so that we can identify service gaps, advocate for those services to be implemented, and the necessary funding to support it. And last but not least, we try to provide simultaneously the personal and professional resources these ladies need to succeed. Because I always tell people, we are not dealing with a thing. We are dealing with human beings, and our women are not one-dimensional. So if all I'm talking to you about is business, but you don't have a home, or your kids don't have a place to go for daycare,
Exactly.
you don't have food on your table, or you're dealing with health issues that are not being appropriately addressed, how can you possibly be successful, really successful in your business?
Absolutely. Is this program just for women in Texas, or is this a national program?
Kat, we are serving women across more than 30 states. I'm so proud to say, but I will say that our footprint is still very small. And so that's one of the things we're working toward. Unfortunately, and fortunately, most of our funding comes out of North Texas. And of course, those funders want you to serve the area that they support.
Absolutely.
So one of the things we really have to do is find more national funders. So a lot of our program, our next level business transformation with our co-working, Texas, okay? Our Financial First weekend series is a part of our SBA program, but it's tier 3, which is community-based. So again, DFW area. So it feels like we're Texas-based because most of the money comes out of Texas, and by the nature of that, we have to serve Texas. But we are, in fact, a national organization, and we're working diligently to identify those national funders that will get on board so we can bring these programs to women across the nation.
I love that. I think Texas is the blueprint for what other states need to be doing for not only all of their veterans, but specifically women. Living in North Carolina is like, well, we allow veterans to live here. And I was like, oh, thank you very much. They're getting better. But, Texas has always been that place where I go, wow, I want North Carolina to be like Texas when it grows up and starts to identify these women veterans. So VR, when you look back, when you were first beginning, how did you move forward? And what I mean by that is what kind of self-talk, what kind of advice, if you look back, would you have given yourself, or would you? Maybe you had it right from day one. But, when we're in business, it gets really hard sometimes. So what kind of advice would you give to yourself as you're looking back that would have propelled you forward?
I think I would have started this as a hybrid. I kind of jumped in this full-fledged. I funded it out of my own pocket. And coming out of New York, R&D is very popular. So, once you've proven a concept, you can usually secure the money you need to really take that to the next level. I was super surprised to date. We still haven't gotten the kind of investment we need to really fully support the BWEC. So for me as an individual, I think if I had to go back and talk to myself, I would have said, okay, I'm going to have something here on the side. We're going to do as much of this as we can, but it's going to have to be properly funded because not only does it impact me, but it also impacts the service level because you're always piecemealing. And being the person that I am, I'm very systematic. The whole piecemeal concept has never worked for me. It's very
any woman coming out of the military, we're all system oriented. We want a system that works. Yeah. And you give us a system and we're like, yes, I can follow that.
Exactly. So I'm still working on understanding the nonprofit budgeting concept of, projecting this big picture that you don't actually have the money to implement, and just some of it just seems so very irrational to me. It just doesn't make
It doesn't make
it
sense.
still doesn't make sense to me, Kat. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm 6 years in and I'm still like, I still don't get this. Why are we doing this way? And when I talk to some of my corporate partners, I'm shocked because, sometimes I'm on a call with 3 to 6 people and you don't understand why I need staffing money, but you got 6 people on a call to talk to me about pennies. We're talking about 10, 20, 30, maybe $50,000. And we're not talking staff, which of course in this industry, in the business support industry, you need competent people. We're not playing with somebody. We're not giving out food. We're talking to people about something that they have decided, this is how I make my living. This is how I pay my bills. So you definitely don't want to give them the wrong advice. You definitely don't want to waste their time taking them away from their business that pays their rent to spin around. You gotta have competent, knowledgeable people that are guiding them and supporting them in the right direction. And why people don't get that and why this is such a struggle, it literally boggles my mind. And so sometimes when I'm having these conversations, I feel, really overwhelmed because I'm like, I know you get human capital. Anybody in corporate get human capital. Billions are spent on human capital because you know the value. Why is that not valued in the nonprofit industry? Why are they saying get a volunteer, grab somebody from over here, just anybody will do? And it's so untrue.
Is that where you think the disconnect is? The disconnect is more about being a nonprofit, or do you think it's more about being veteran oriented?
Oh, no. It's about being a nonprofit. I doing an op-ed, and it's about being a statistic. I read about nonprofits and how they work and for minority women. And I was reading this article and it was deceptive in a way because it said minority women get more grants than their majority counterpart. And I thought, well, that can't be true. Read more, VR. So as I kept reading, I found out that yes, minority women get more small grants. 10,000, 20,000, 5,000, while our majority counterparts get $250,000. First hit. So they failed to tell you that you spend your entire year trying to piece together that $250,000 while your counterpart gets that in one check and goes on about their business to do the work. So we spend a lot of time not being able to do the work and be impactful because we're busy out there chasing a dime or a dollar. And it just seems so, to me, again, it baffles your mind that I know the corporate world gets human capital. I know they do. But why they don't get it when they're investing in the nonprofit industry bewilders me. And I think they have to understand that not all nonprofits are created equal. Right. You can get volunteers to do a food pantry. Anybody pretty much can come in and store the food and open it up and give it out with a smile and just be really kind to people. That doesn't take a huge knowledge set. Even a homeless program, if you just treat people with dignity, show them where they can go and get a change of clothing, where they can get a shower, where they can get something to eat. Talk to them about available services. You can get that from a list that somebody gives to you. It is not the same in business support services. We're not speaking from a list. You need to be speaking from experience, or you've been trained by somebody on what you need to do.
So what kind of advice would you give if someone comes to you and says, I want to do a nonprofit? What kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, first, I would tell them to really make sure they understand the nature of a nonprofit. You have to have a board of directors by law. Right now, we're doing board recruitment. It's a monster to get people to give their time and energy to support your dream, really. And a lot of times they don't have that same passion. Make sure you start looking at funding tracks. Who's funding what you want to do? Who's getting that funding? Is your market already saturated where you're going to be struggling to get in the game, to kind of get a niche? It's like any other business. A nonprofit is a business. So can you carve out a piece of this action, or is it oversaturated and you're not going to get in the game? And then if you have a job, or you get a job, I would say hybrid it. Hybrid it so somebody really shows a commitment to what you're doing, because it's very difficult to be trying to help other people succeed if you yourself feel like you're failing on your end because you're not getting the support that you need to truly be, successful. So I get the heart. I've met so many people in New York that have a heart for service, but you also have to have the competence and you got to have the dollars.
You got to understand business a little bit. I remember when I got out the military, I think there weren't any, if there were, I'm not going to say there weren't any. I did not know of any services that were helping not only veterans, but just women veterans. And now it's like drinking from a fire hose. Everybody wants to, we help veterans over here. We help women veterans over here. And so now you don't know where to turn. And it's really difficult. And I think that's great advice is everyone wants to be service oriented because that's what we want to do when we get out of the military. But again, knowing if that area that you're looking to do your nonprofit is saturated. And so I think that's amazing advice. I want to know, as women veterans, we get out of the military and I think that we come out of the military with a superpower. I just don't know. Sometimes you don't know what that superpower is until much later. So, VR, what is your superpower? And have you always known you've had this superpower?
Last year I was honored as a sister with superpowers. And I remember them asking me, what's your superpower? And I thought, kind of laughed. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not Spider-Woman or any of that stuff. But when I really dug into it, my name kind of reflects my superpower now, but not my superpower then. So my superpower now is vision and resilience. Knowing that there is this is what we're trying to achieve point. And then having that resilience, which is really grounded in my own personal faith, that regardless of all of the things that are happening around me, I know that I can get through it. And I know that I will get through it. But back in the day, I think my superpower when I got out of the military was flexibility. I had been bent over backwards in the Navy, trying to find my place and constantly getting no's. My chaplain wanted me to go to chaplain school. My commander said no. I had an opportunity to audition for the Navy band. My commander said no. This woman had an issue with me. I don't know what it was. I don't know what I said or what I did, but she was like, you're not going anywhere small. And so every opportunity that was presented me, she said no. And so when I had extended my time, I had finished my 4 years and I had extended it because I wanted to do this Navy band audition. And I couldn't imagine her saying no, because really it's just an audition. They haven't actually invited me yet. But she was a flat out no. And I had already extended my time. And I was like, well, okay, I'm going to finish up my time and I'm out. And
you know what it was, though? You know what it is? You know what it was at that time? You were just too good at what you did. They did not want to lose you. They were just like, say no to everything else so she can do what she needs to do here.
No, I don't think so. Because again, I left the operating room. I went into clinical investigations. Not that blood or anything made me queasy, because the operating room environment is very sterile. It's very clean. The only time you see anything that really might make you, queasy, if you get a gunshot or a stab wound comes in, and then you have all those kinds of complexities. But, in the operating room, that is very sterile and very clean. But what I found out was I wanted to go into the military. I had decided this was going to be my career. I was already committed to my 25 years. But when I got ready to get out, I thought, what if I get another crazy person like this woman who blocks every opportunity that I have. I've got to have more flexibility to control my environment. And I can't control my environment in the military because there's somebody else over you deciding what you can and what you can't do. And you really can't override it. You can't get away from it. In fact, I auditioned for Dreamgirls, the first one, when they came to California. And I got a call back. And everybody was like, you should go AWOL. You better go. And I was like, yeah. And when they see me on the stage and come take me off, then what? So, and I knew, I mean, this was before, all of the TV shows and stuff where they would let military people take leave. And that wasn't happening then. And after everything else she had said no to, I knew this would be a no. But just, opportunity after opportunity, I was denied. And then you had to not walk away angry. You had to not walk away begrudging. And I had to jump into the civilian world and just look, here I am. And I remember going for this management job, and the woman said, well, what makes you think you would be a good manager? And I don't know why I answered it, but I was like, well, what makes you a good manager? I'm like, look, let's throw that question back. I'm not seeing it, but you come at me like, I knew I wasn't going to get that position, Kat, but I couldn't help myself from saying it. I was like, really? That's how we come in? Because I had already laid out everything I had done. And, I did the scheduling, even though I didn't have it in my letter. And I was honest with people like I was honest with you. Like, hey, I did a lot more things than I should have done. And so they, couldn't put it in writing. But here's, what I've done. And I could see people saying, sure you did. But that was the reality. That was the truth of it.
So let's change directions for just a second. I know you have a personal slogan, changing the way we see the world and do business. What does that mean? Can you explain that to our audience?
Absolutely. I think that how we look at people and things really impact how we do what we do. I'm very much the person of what should we be doing opposed to what are we doing or what are other people are doing. I really don't care. What I care about is what should we be doing. And I think as we change the way we see the world, the way we see each other, the way we interact, that is also going to change the way we do business. Here's a statistic. A huge percentage of minority business failed. They just went under. And we think, oh, poor minority business, ethnic business. No, because that group of ethnic businesses cost our economy over $200 billion.
That's what
so, yeah, they might have lost, but we as a economy, as a nation, lost. And so we have to stop looking at situations as them and us and realize that we are all in this together. And when you succeed, ultimately I succeed because everybody that fails is pulling down on all of us. At some point or another, we got to help them, whether it's food, whether it's housing, whether it's transportation, whether it's childcare. We can't just leave them out there hanging. And so not succeeding is a problem for everybody. That's why I tell people when we help these women become self-sufficient, we're not just helping them. Most of these women are head of household.
Yeah.
Our family structure. And most of these women live in some communities. So we're building vibrant business communities. And last but not least, we are literally fueling our economy with their dollars. It is a triple win. What are you missing? Every person we leave behind becomes a dead weight on us. And they will keep us from really going to the levels we need to go to. And so we see ourselves in society now, struggling. Because we spend so much time trying to keep this one down, trying to keep that one down, and not realizing you're literally keeping yourself down. It will ultimately cost you. So we've got to change the way we see the world in order to change the way we do business. See, I don't like that saying. People do business with people they know and like.
Yes.
I think that saying is so biased because I need to know you, Kat. I need to know you're competent. I need to know something about your product and services. I'm going to check your reviews to see what other people are saying about you.
I think it comes down to trust. You have to trust.
Kat, wait. I don't need to like you. I don't got to have you over for a barbecue or drink a beer with you or have a glass of wine with you. We ain't got to go to the movie or chit chat on the telephone for me to do business with you. That is cliquish. That is bias. And so many people, ethnic people, do not have those clicks. And so people aren't doing business with us, not because they don't know us. They just don't like us.
Yeah.
And when you say, well, why don't you like her? I don't know. She rubs me the wrong way. But the reality is, it's your internal bias.
Yeah.
And that is going to keep us all from getting to the level we need to. So, I want to know you. And I would love to like you. But it's not a prerequisite to me doing business with you. And we got to stop that. Because as women, if we don't lead in DEI, if we don't change the way we do business, why would anybody else that's already benefiting them to keep doing just what they're doing? So if we buy in, how are we creating change? I love it. She's like, whoa!
He was agreeing. That was my dog.
I like it. He's like, yeah.
Thank you. Timing, right?
He was right on the money. He's like, yes. All right.
VR, I have one last question for you. So I know that you testified for the original House bill to make June 12th Women Veterans Day in Texas. A lot of women in smaller states where women veterans aren't really recognized as well. What kind of advice would you give us to be open enough to do something like that? What I mean is, where do we go? Where do we start? Because, I've reached out to several, legislators, I should say, in my state, and it was crickets. I got nothing back. So do you have any words of advice that can get our foot in the door?
I do. I think you need to not just reach out to legislators, but you need to follow and do some research on your legislators. Who really has a commitment to the veteran community? Who really has a commitment to women? So beyond this person is elected, does this person recognize the value of women and the value of our military? And putting those two together is willing to help me not only educate, but validate and commemorate those contributions by making June 12th a date in our state to recognize or appreciate the service that women have done. We have the Color of Freedom exhibit here in Dallas. I fought like HELL to get it here. We did a collaboration with the African American Museum. They literally had to clean out a space to create a space for us to bring this exhibit in, and they were happy to do so. But the contributions of our women are often untold stories. And so you've got to find that right person. It's not just any person. You got to find that right person. That right person that's talking the talk every day, not just on an occasion to be seen, but they're constantly advocating for women. They're constantly advocating for our veterans. That person is going to be more attuned to what you're saying than anybody else. And then come as a group. Don't just come as Kat. Find other women veterans that feel the way you do.
There's power in numbers.
Yes, you have a podcast, Pat. Start a petition, start an online petition, and after every one of your shows, say, hey, if you live in South Carolina and you want to see Women's Veterans Day, don't forget to sign our petition. We want 1,000. We want 1,500. We want 200. We want 50. Whatever that number is that works for your state. Names on this petition that we can bring to the right representative and say, work with us. And that's what our representative did. Niade worked with us. It was her vision, really. I had no idea the significance of June 12th. I was like, why June 12th? But when I did my research, I was like, absolutely June 12th. And so that's why we all have to do our research and we all have to be committed. Now we have it on the books and people are getting laxadaisics But see, that's why you lose. We're still fighting the national challenge to make it a national day. So we got to keep up the hoopla and let people know how important this is. And that we know its importance. We value it. So every June 12th, even if you don't have it in your state, we didn't have it on the books in 2017, but I had already planned a celebration. Because my feeling was like, let the governor and everybody know, we want June 12th. We're going to celebrate it every year until you make it an official celebration. So you're not stopping nothing. So start hosting a June 12th celebration. Host it with your mayor. Host it with your council person. You know what I mean? Like, do it anyway. And as it begins to pick up momentum, people will catch the fire and join.
I love all of everything you said. I feel like I could just keep talking to you, and then this would be like a 3-hour podcast and no one would listen to it. I think
if people will fall asleep, come back like, oh, they're still talking.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with me about what you're doing. You sound like such a powerhouse in what you're doing in Texas, and I'm going to follow you in what you're doing. And any last words for our audience?
Absolutely. Do not be a looky-loo. Get involved. Seriously. Follow us, follow Kat, follow other people that are doing things to get women veteran out of the shadows, into the limelight. Give. Don't expect other people to do what you're not willing to do. Make a contribution. If you think contributions are needed, start with yours. Give. And then be willing to serve. We are now looking for members for our board of directors. It is a service. You don't get paid for it, but the pay is in the impact and the change that you're able to make as a leader, providing guidance and direction and advocating for the program. So if not BWEC, find the place you need to be, but find a place and get connected.
VR, thank you so much for being here today on the podcast. It was such an honor to get to meet you and talk to you. And for my audience, I'm going to say, please stay safe, take care of each other. Until next time, and remember, it's never too late to start your impossible.